Burrata cheese is a cheese that is taken from water buffalo or carabao or milk or your typical cow's milk. Now, this one should be used immediately or kept in your refrigerator until 3 days. Tip: do not put it in the freezer because that will actually change the taste of your burrata cheese, spelled as Burrata. For those of you who might have a hard time sourcing for burrata cheese, you can actually go to Deli Drop, which has branches in SM Aura and in Megamall Adsa, right? But you can also try to find this in different delis. Now, as you can see here in our round aluminum food tray, I have already put the burrata cheese, so it's very easy to take out of the container. You could actually use a strainer because um, if it's exposed outside, like in your kitchen only, then there will be some liquid that will have risen to the brim of its container. You could just take it out quite easily. It won't actually stick to the container. It's really easy. Just go right ahead and try to take the liquid out, right? So the cheese will actually um, be held by the container or will be caught by your strainer, for example, right? So you can use any strainer for that matter. It does not have to be a sieve strainer, right? And of course, next, right, is that we are going to put our rigatoni pasta, right? So what I can advise you is is that rather you use your number 24 rigatoni. Now, as you can see, we have fully covered the burrata cheese with our rigatoni number 24. What you can do is that when you're trying to boil your rigatoni noodles, you could just put this, of course, in a casserole full of hot water, and then you can try to boil it in medium heat, right? And then sprinkling all the salt that you need. It will not actually overflow, or you will not be burning your rigatoni, just because that if you put it in high heat, then the water might overflow and you might overcook the pasta noodles. It's usually just supposed to cook for 3 to 7 minutes, depending on the doneness that you want. It could be, let's say, al dente, or it could be really cooked. That really depends on you. No one has the right to tell you, of course, like how soft or how al dente you want your noodles to be, especially because you're the one who's eating it. So what you want must be followed, right? Or should be followed at least. So we already have this one is your 500-gram rigatoni noodles. As I've said, it's number 24, number 20, or number 27, if memory serves me right. This one is from the Cecco, right? Gececco, which is a brand of Italian noodles. It is the best, just because from the packaging itself, you can, when you run your fingers through it, it's going to be very soft and very smooth to the touch. And then you can, of course, like, then after you boil this, right, you can now put this on top of your burrata. Earlier, we had seen how you will place the burrata, which is just like mozzarella with cream or milk. But you wouldn't want to actually do this at home because it would, really take a long time before you can actually process or make the burrata. So if you want to make your life very simple, just get it from a deli, from a local deli, and then you can put the rigatoni on top of this, right? And then, of course, the next one is that we will be putting our spinach, right, on top. So what you do with your spinach is that you put them in hot or even in cold water first, just so that you wash them, and then you put a lot of salt so that you can bring out the flavor, right? So what we're going to do is after we put the spinach, we will be putting the garlic nuts or the super garlic nut mix that I bought from SNR, and then we will be putting the olive oil on top, and then later on we will be sprinkling all the parmesan, the bold parmesan, that we could ever have in one lifetime, and then we can then put the uh the pesto, the classic pesto sauce on top, and then bake it at 200 degrees Celsius, right? So obviously, don't forget to preheat, because if you don't preheat, then you will not get the results that you had hoped for. Okay, as you can see, we already have our spinach on top, and it's all over the brim right now. So if you want, what you can do is that you can even shred this or cut this into smaller bits of your spinach, and then you can mix this later on, right? What we're going to do, or what we're going to put on top here is, of course, our super garlic mix. As you can see here, this one is 450 grams, but I had already eaten it, so we already just have half of um the entire or the entire um well, what do you call this, like, box over here. Well, it's not a box, so it's more of like a bag, right? So we're just going to be putting all of this on top here, right? So if you want to conserve more space, then it's totally fine, for you to shred, as I said earlier, this all of the spinach, right? So that you will be, they will be really small in size, and you can put as many as you want, right? Over there. So you don't have to worry. You can actually press it there. And then the next one, of course, is this one. This is the Bertolli Organic Olive Oil. So it's extra light taste. You could just put a little bit of this, or well, probably the smallest could be like one fourth or one fall, right? So if you're actually thinking, okay, the taste might actually be different, or it might not be as flavorful as you would hope, then of course just put like a little bit, right? Because we don't have a nozzle, or that thing that we actually put in the opening of the bottle, just to actually control the flow of the liquid. Then you can actually use a measuring cup, like one fourth or one half. Well, one half or one cup would be too much. So I would suggest one fourth of this, or if you want to make sure, then you can use 3 to 4 tablespoons of your Bertolli organic olive oil. Now there you can see our bold shredded Parmesan. Well, it's not really shredded, it's more of pre-shaved, right? That's why it's kind of big. So underneath it, I've already put 4 to 5 tablespoons of my Bertolli organic extra light tasting olive oil. And then you have shredded cheese right here, right on top. Okay. And then what we are going to do, the last part of this one, of the arrangement rather, would be the Filippo Berio Chef's Selection Classic Pesto, right? We're just going to be using 200, oh, well, 210 if I'm not mistaken, of this, right? Uh-huh, something like that. I'm really are good in math. Well, anyway, half of 520 grams. So this one really smells like your original or your authentic pesto. You can actually make this at home if you want. Let me just go right ahead and show you the ingredients here. So we have your Italian basil, sunflower oil, water, cashew nuts, potato flakes, grana padano cheese, milk, salt, pecorino romano, and you have extra virgin olive oil here, right? So you can actually put all of those ingredients in a blender, and then you will be coming up, of course, with um, your own pesto, right? But if, of course, if you want to save time, then just buy this from SNR. All right, so we have already put the pesto on top. This one is actually going to be the last part that you put here, or the last ingredient, and not the bold shredded parmesan, because usually, especially us Filipinos, we would like to see that cheesy froth or bubble, which is, well, most often the not color yellow on top of your dish, right? On top of the dish, or on top of your container, or your baking dish, or like your round food tray, whatever, right? But this one, we would like the pesto to actually take center stage, right? That's why we're putting it on top. So again, you have burrata cheese, spinach, garlic nuts, right? Garlic roasted nuts, olive oil, parmesan, right? And then on top you have your pesto. So it's better for it to be classic pesto, right? So you don't want it so to be like one of those flavored pesto sauces, um because you don't want it to overpower the taste of other ingredients deep below, like the burrata cheese, right? Which is again a combination of mozzarella and cheese. Later on, after baking, we will actually be mixing this all. Again, if you don't want it all to like be full or be filled to the brim, right? So what you do is that you mix, right? You mix this entire dish, and then you later on, so that everything gets mixed, right? Because the cheeses will all melt, especially after putting it in the oven. So we will be preheating it now to, well, because I don't really have, one of those big industrial ovens. We will be preheating it to number 8, which is 200 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes. So there you have it. After 30 minutes in the oven under 280 degrees Celsius heat, we already have this pesto dish here, right? So as you can see, it's kind of brown, but it's nowhere near burnt. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to mix it from underneath. As you can see, there's some oil over here. Right, that is because of the olive oil that we had actually put on top of the peanuts, right? So, because of we baked it, the pesto kind of, it kind of bubbled up, right? So some of the peanuts already came out. Mm. And according to my taste test, mm, it's delicious, right? So everything has the flavors have finally been mixed. So later on, we will be checking what it actually looks like, right? Once you mix it from underneath. So be careful when you start doing that. It will be more advisable for you to actually use a spatula. Here now we have the finished product of, well, I don't really know what you call the pasta, as I've said. I saw this in one YouTube video before, but of course I actually just changed most of the ingredients. Like from basil, I used spinach, and instead of pine nuts, I used roasted garlic nuts. Not everyone here in the Philippines actually appreciates basil. I'm not saying that Filipinos in general, or people who live in the Philippines rather, do not appreciate basil. Um, but it's better to use something that you will get more vitamins, like spinach, which is high in vitamin B2, or vitamin B in general. And of course, you have olive oil, you have pesto in the mix as well. And as you can see here, it's very creamy now because the burrata was properly mixed from underneath. Do this on purpose because when you actually share it with the people that you love, or you share it with family and friends, or if you're just going to eat it by yourself, it's fine. At least you would know the proper way of mixing it. You might not be able to share with them the flavor or flavors that you initially had in mind when you are cooking this, right? Or when you are making this, because they don't, especially if they don't know their way around the kitchen, they won't be able to actually properly mix the pasta, and they wouldn't know how to do it, to really let the flavors out and allow the flavors to be mixed properly with the dish.